So imagine taking probably the most chaotic, unruly, aggressively sprawling weed you can possibly think of. Like a plant that is literally armed with thorns and its only biological instinct is just to scramble in every possible direction all at once.
Right, a complete mess of a plant.
Exactly, a total mess. And then somehow forcing that exact plant to grow into a perfectly elegant single trunk tree. I mean, it sounds practically impossible. It's like a total contradiction in terms. But today, for our deep dive, we're looking at a gardener who did exactly that.
Yeah, and the timeline it actually took to achieve it is, well, it might completely upend how you think about progress and transformation, really.
Totally, it's wild.
So we are dissecting this really fascinating piece of writing today. It's an excerpt from a gardening journal, and it's titled The Patient Art of Trading Bougainvillea.
Right.
And specifically, this is a post from an author named Ang. It was just published yesterday, actually, June 9th, 2026. And the title is Notes on Gardening, Part 920.
Wait, Part 920?
Yeah, Part 920, which, I mean, that number alone should tell you something about the level of, like, deep, sustained observation we are dealing with here.
920 entries. I mean, most of us don't even log our gym workouts that consistently.
No, definitely not.
So the author is clearly this meticulous chronicler of the natural world. And in this specific entry, Ang really hones in on a plant that is just famous for being incredibly uncooperative.
Yeah, the Bougainvillea. And to really understand the gravity of what Ang found, we kind of have to start with the baseline reality of this plant.
Right, the default state.
Exactly. If you cruise through, any tropical or subtropical neighborhood, or even just visit a local plant center, you've definitely seen them.
Oh, yeah, they are everywhere.
They're those explosive bushes with the super vibrant pink or purple, maybe orange colors, just sort of cascading over fences.
And usually looking completely out of control.
Right. And the word Ang actually uses in the journal to describe them is messy. The text notes that these plants usually look, quote, rather messy, with branches growing in wildly different directions.
Which is putting it mildly, honestly.
It is. And a crucial distinction the author makes here is that this visual disorder, it happens whether the plants are unmanaged out in the wild or even if they're actively managed outdoors by a casual gardener.
So even if you're trying to keep it neat, it just wants to go crazy.
Yeah, the default state is just sprawling chaos.
I always picture the natural state of a bougainvillea as being like a toddler's sprawling crayon drawing on a living room wall.
That is a great visual.
Right, because there is no central focus at all. There's no real boundary. It just exists in the state of uncontainable, frantic enthusiasm. But, I mean, why is it like that? What is the plant actually trying to achieve by shooting branches everywhere?
Well, it all comes down to its evolutionary survival strategy. You see, Bougainvillea are native to South America, and biologically speaking, they're classified as scramblers.
Scramblers, okay.
Yeah. So they aren't true vines. They don't have those little tendrils that gently wrap around structures,
Right.
And they certainly aren't sturdy, self-supporting trees either.
Yeah.
In their natural habitat, the way they survive is by aggressively pushing out these long, woody shoots that are armed with really stiff thorns.
Oh, so the thorns aren't just for defense.
No, not at all. They use those thorns to literally hook onto neighboring plants and just pull themselves up through the dense jungle canopy so they can reach the sunlight.
Oh, wow. So they are basically botanical hitchhikers.
Exactly.
They don't want to build their own structural support. They just want to, throw out 100 grappling hooks until they find something to climb over.
That is the perfect way to look at it. They are spending all their cellular energy on this rapid outward expansion.
They're just claiming territory.
Right. The plant is constantly producing new shoots, trying to claim as much physical space as possible. Yeah. And that is exactly why they inherently resist being contained in, say, a neat little garden bed.
Because it goes against their entire biology.
Exactly. When you try to trim them into a polite little square hedge, you are fighting millions of years of evolutionary programming. Programming that is just screaming at the plant to scramble upward and outward.
Which makes Ang's discovery in this journal entry so incredibly striking, because during a recent trip, Ang stumbled upon a single bougainvillea that completely defied that scrambling nature.
It broke all the rules.
Yeah. It wasn't a messy shrub overflowing a wall. Ang observed that it had been trained into a highly deliberate shape. The text notes it was trained into, quote, or rather a tree form.
And think about the structural physics required for that kind of transformation.
I can't even
I
imagine.
mean, a scrambling shrub naturally has multiple thin stems originating from the ground. It
Right,
relies entirely on external objects to stay upright.
the grappling hook.
But a tree requires a single, robust central trunk that is capable of bearing the immense weight of a canopy all on its own.
So taking a plant that is biologically hardwired to be this decentralized scrambler and physically coercing it into a centralized load-bearing tree, that is a massive structural intervention.
It is huge. And Ang points out a very specific result of this intervention. By forcing this plant into a tree form, the gardener deliberately encouraged the bracts to grow.
The bracts. Yeah.
Ang actually includes a photo in the journal, which obviously we can't show you through your headphones right now. But the result is described as quite a different sight. Ang says it possesses an unexpected elegance.
Unexpected elegance. The use of the word unexpected is key there, I think.
Oh, absolutely.
Because you expect a Bougainvillea to be loud, chaotic, aggressive. So to see it structured with the deliberate architectural grace of a standalone tree, it completely disrupts your expectations.
It really does. It's jarring in a beautiful way.
I do have a major question about the actual mechanics of this, though.
Sure, go for it.
If the plant naturally wants to shoot branches everywhere like grappling hooks, how does forcing it into a single trunk actually encourage it to produce more of those colorful bracts?
That's a great question.
I mean, wouldn't the plant just spend all its energy trying to rebel? Like,
Yeah.
if I keep cutting off its branches, shouldn't it just get super stressed and die, or at least just stop producing anything beautiful?
Well, that assumes the plant reacts to stress the way a human might, like by just shutting down.
All right, just giving up.
But in botany, strategic stress is often the exact trigger for spectacular displays. To really understand how shaping creates those bracts, we have to look at the underlying biological mechanisms. Specifically, something called apical dominance.
Apical dominance. Okay, break that down for us. What does that mean?
So at the very tip of every growing branch, there is a bud. And that tip produces the very high concentration of plant hormones called auxins.
Auxins. Okay.
And these auxins travel downward through the stem. Their primary job is to actively suppress the growth of any other little buds along the sides of the branch.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, the plant is essentially chemically brainwashing itself to prioritize extending its main shoots outward rather than getting bushier. That is exactly how it creates those long, scrambling grappling hooks we talked about.
Okay, so the tips of the branches are sending a signal down the line saying, hey, don't grow leaves, don't grow flowers, just keep pushing forward.
Precisely. Just keep expanding. But when a gardener intervenes, when they prune that wild branch back, they physically remove the source of those auxins.
They cut off the signal.
Exactly. The suppressive chemical signal just vanishes. And suddenly, all the lateral buds along the sides of the stem, they wake up. Another hormone called cytokinin, which is actually produced in the roots, pushes upward.
And what does that do?
This forces the plant to branch out laterally. It creates a much denser structure.
Okay, so it shifts the energy from outward expansion into internal density. But how does that get us to the vivid colors Ang was so impressed by? The unexpected elegance.
Right, so this is where the strategic stress comes in. By continually pruning the plant and restricting its natural desire to scramble, the gardener is putting the Bougainvillea under a controlled level of environmental stress.
Like keeping it on a tight leash.
Exactly. And in the plant world, when an organism feels its vegetative growth is restricted, its survival instinct just flips a switch. It completely stops trying to grow endless green leaves, and it shifts all its energy into reproductive mode.
Oh.
It basically thinks, uh-oh, my expansion is limited. I need to reproduce immediately to pass on my genes before I die.
Oh, that makes total sense. So it starts producing flowers to attract pollinators because it feels like it's under threat.
Yes, but with Bougainvillea, there's a really fascinating botanical twist here.
What is it?
The vibrantly colored parts of the plant, the brilliant pinks, the purples and oranges that Ang marveled at, they're not actually petals, they are bracts.
Bracts. Right. Ang specifically uses that term in the text, saying the form was to encourage the bracts to grow. But what is the technical difference between a petal and a bract?
Basically, a bract is a modified leaf. The actual flowers of a Bougainvillea are tiny, white, tubular, and honestly very inconspicuous.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they sit right in the center of those brightly colored bracts. Because the tree flowers are so tiny, the plant evolved to turn its surrounding leaves into massive neon billboards to attract butterflies and hummingbirds from miles away.
That is so smart. So when the gardener shapes the tree and restricts that wild growth, they are manipulating the plant's hormones to break its scrambling habit,
Yes.
while simultaneously applying just enough stress to force the plant to mass produce these neon billboard leaves. The sheer amount of biological manipulation happening beneath the surface of that unexpected elegance is wild. You are literally starving the chaos to feed the display.
That's a great way to put it. It is a constant physical negotiation with the biology of the organism. You are redirecting the flow of water, nutrients, and hormones along a singular pathway that you, the gardener, have chosen, rather than the hundreds of pathways the plant naturally wants to take.
Which I think brings us to the most staggering part of Ang's journal entry.
The timeline.
The question of time, exactly. Because you look at this biological tug of war, this constant pruning and hormone manipulation, and you have to wonder what the time scale is. And Ang asks in the text, quote, how long it took for the gardener to train it until this look.
And the answer Ang uncovers is really the focal point of the entire post. To get a sprawling Bougainvillea to reach this specific, elegant tree form, the text states it takes roughly 10 to 20 years of training.
10 to 20 years.
Yes.
Let's just pause and internalize that time frame for a second. We operate in environments today where a long-term project usually means, like, a 6-month roadmap.
Right, or maybe a year if you're really stretching it.
We are profoundly detached from natural timelines.
We really are. And Ang actually emphasizes the shock of this by repeating the phrase in the journal. Ang writes, yes, that long to reach this tree form. It requires complete recalibration of what we even consider a commitment.
Because 20 years isn't just an arbitrary number. That is a massive percentage of a human life.
It's huge.
I mean, that is the time it takes to raise a child from birth to adulthood. It's the time it takes to build an entire career from scratch. And this gardener dedicated that same volume of time to shaping the branches of a single plant.
It's humbling, really.
It is. But what does that 20 years actually look like in practice? Because I imagine it's not just planting a seed, walking away, and coming back 2 decades later to a perfect tree.
Oh, not at all. Trading a tree like this, it's actually similar to the principles of bonsai, but often on a much larger scale. It is an active, seasonal discipline.
So you're out there all the time.
Constantly.
Hmm?
In the early years, the gardener has to select a central leader. That's the one stem that will become the trunk. And they have to violently prune away everything else.
Just hack it all back.
Yeah, and then they have to stake it, tie it down to force it to grow straight against the wind, all while dealing with those massive thorns the whole time.
And there must be huge setbacks over a period that long. Over 20 years, you are inevitably going to experience severe droughts, unseasonal frosts, maybe pest infestations.
Absolutely. Branches you've spent 5 years carefully coaxing into the perfect position for the canopy might catch a fungal infection and just die back.
Oh man, that would be heartbreaking.
Or a freak storm might snap a primary branch, forcing you to completely rethink the entire structural balance of the tree. The gardener is constantly responding to the environment, making these micro-adjustments year after year after year.
That sounds incredibly frustrating, especially when you consider what must be the messy middle of this process. There has to be a period, maybe spanning a decade, where the plant just looks totally awful.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah?
The awkward teenage phase of horticulture.
Exactly. Because it doesn't look like a chaotic, vibrant shrub anymore, right? You've hacked it all back. But the trunk hasn't thickened up yet, and the canopy hasn't filled out with those bracts. So for years, you are just staring at this scarred, wired-up stick in the ground. The restraint required to not just rip it out and plant something easier is immense.
And this is exactly why Ang titled the excerpt The Patient Art.
Right.
The primary medium the gardener is working with here isn't soil or water or, honestly, even the plant itself. The medium is time.
Wow. The medium is time.
The gardener has to hold the final vision of that unexpected elegance in their mind through years and years of the plant looking like a failed experiment. They have to deeply understand that the structural integrity of a tree cannot be downloaded, it can't be hacked, it has to be grown cell by cell, season by season.
It really is the ultimate rejection of the instant gratification loop. The gardener makes a conscious decision to put in arduous physical labor today, knowing the final payoff won't manifest until they themselves are in a completely different stage of their life.
Yeah, if we synthesize what Ang has documented in Part 920, it's really a masterclass in contrasting paradigms.
How so?
Well, we start with the baseline biology, right? The everyday Bougainvillea. It's genetically programmed for unmanaged, scrambling chaos. It uses auxins to suppress branching, thorns to climb, appearing rather messy as it fights to claim space.
Right, the wild toddler crayon drawing.
Exactly. And then we have the human intervention. Through the deep understanding of apical dominance and stress responses, the gardener restricts that sprawling energy. They break the plant's natural habits to force the growth of a structural canopy and those vibrant, protective bracts.
The result being that striking, unexpected elegance.
But the core insight, the actual mechanism that allows that biological transformation to occur, is the 10 to 20 years of patient training. It's the willingness to engage in a decades-long physical negotiation with the plant.
So, bringing this back to you, the listener, why dedicate an entire deep dive to a single observation about a tropical shrub?
Good question.
Because the mechanics of how this Bougainvillea was trained directly mirror the realities of building anything complex and enduring in our own lives, we constantly try to apply shortcuts to things that biologically or structurally just require slow cultivation.
Oh, totally. Consider how we build systems today. We launch startups, we try to overhaul corporate cultures, we attempt to master incredibly complex technical skills, and we just expect a streamlined, linear progression.
We want the montage sequence.
Yes, we demand the after photo in 6 months. And when we inevitably hit that messy middle, when the project looks like a hacked-up stick full of structural setbacks and friction, we assume the system is broken and we abandon it for the next quick fix.
We completely fail to respect the timescale of structural growth. Eng's journal entry is such a brilliant reminder that genuine elegance, stability, and deep structural change cannot be forced overnight. Whether you are manipulating plant hormones or building a community from the ground up, you have to constrain the chaotic energy, guide it deliberately, and survive the long periods where progress is completely invisible to the naked eye.
And I think that leaves us with a really critical question for you to mull over as you go about your day. Think about the long-term projects or complex systems you are currently trying to build or improve in your own life. Are you operating on a timeline that respects the messy, difficult biology of real growth? Or are you abandoning the process the moment it stops yielding instant results?
That's a tough question to answer, honestly.
It is. But what might happen if you stopped looking for a shortcut and instead committed to the patient art of observing, guiding, and shaping that chaotic system for the next 10 years?
It completely changes how you look at the work in front of you. Sometimes the most radical thing you can do is simply refuse to rush.